Hi FreightWaves fans and friends, we are coming at you live here on Tuesday, a frigid Tuesday over about 75% of the entire nation. But we are here in the FreightWaves offices and we're excited and we just can't hide it because we have braved the snow. People like to say us Southerners can't handle a little dusting of snow. Well, look at us now. Here we are and we're about to give you what's happening right now. So we've got both Nick Austin telling us about this polar vortex and what in the world's going on around us, as well as Michael Crosby, the Wizard of Croz, telling us about volumes, maybe some good news after the Sultan of Sonar's very bad news yesterday, and what's going on with Tinder rejections. So, Nick, hello.
Hey, Chad.
Way to brave that snow.
Barely made it here. No, I'm just kidding. That happens here in Chattanooga, you know. The high elevations, they get a little bit, and we get nothing here. It all depends on where the storm comes from. If that storm was coming off the Gulf of Mexico, we would have gotten snow, most likely. But it didn't happen this time.
Yeah, the way that you're saying when it comes this way.
If it comes this way, our headquarters right down here in Chattanooga, yeah, we usually don't get much snow. It has to develop along the Gulf Coast.
Okay,
but
well, yes.
That's history now. That's history. So there's a lot of snow that'll be moving up through New England along the I-95 corridor today and tonight. But the big story is still the frigid, just wicked cold weather up across the Great Lakes.
Coldest in 2 decades, you said?
Some of the coldest weather they've had in quite some time, right? More than 20 years. And they're used to cold weather, but this is like brutally cold weather. I mean, stiff northerly winds, temperatures down in the 20s and 30s below zero, but the wind chills, what it actually feels like on your exposed skin, if you're not wearing gloves, your fingertips, if you're not covering your face on your nose, your ears, it'll feel like it's in the 40s, 50s, or even 60s below zero.
Oh.
The worst of it's going to be up right here, International Falls, Minnesota, up into North Dakota. That's where really the 50s and 60s below zero wind chills are going to be felt. But even down in Chicago,
yeah,
during the day today, wind chills in the 20s below zero. And then by tomorrow morning, down in the 40s below zero for Chicago and a lot of the other areas.
They're even closing schools.
Closing schools is going to be lots of problems for truckers out there. Not just because there's also snow falling. There's more lake effect snow here in the western parts of Michigan, lower Michigan here, and across the upper peninsula of Michigan as well. They're going to have several more inches of snow. It's going to be blowing around everywhere, so really bad visibility. And trouble with the trucks, because if your truck is parked overnight and you didn't leave it running, you could have problems with brake failures when you get back on the road or trying to get back on the road. Fuel gelling, all that kind of stuff.
Tell us a little bit about, look at what's happening here. Looks like the I-95 corridor getting obliterated one way or another.
This is where most of the snow is falling right now.
Okay.
From eastern Pennsylvania all the way up through New England. And it's coming down hard in some areas, but it's not blowing around everywhere. I mean, they're used to that up there. But it is going to make for messy driving along the I-95 corridor, that's for sure. But that brutal cold is going to stick around just about all week across the Great Lakes. This is not just, 1 or 2 day thing. It actually started over the weekend, and then it got worse yesterday, and it's going to stick around really through, I'd say through Friday afternoon, until Friday afternoon. A lot of big cities across the Great Lakes won't get above zero as far as temperatures. Not above freezing. They won't get above zero.
I understand too. That is awful. I understand too that like 75% of the entire nation is at sub-freezing temperatures.
Right.
You want to tell us about how that's happening? Anything about polar vortex coming into play?
It's another piece of the polar vortex. The first piece came in over the weekend. Actually, there was a smaller piece before that. But the real first strong piece of the polar vortex broke off and hit the Great Lakes over the weekend. This is a second little lobe or piece that has broken off of the polar vortex, which sits over the North Pole. Vortex just basically means low pressure system.
But it sounds cool.
And the polar vortex doesn't make snow. It's not a weather maker, but it does make the air a lot colder. That's what it does. It sends cold air down into the United States through Canada.
Okay.
So that's what's happening here again. And oftentimes it does stick around for days and days.
Yeah, and Nick Austin, he doesn't make the weather, but he calls it like he sees it. So
May
thank
I
you
say
again.
something else?
Yes, please.
You can pop the map up. back up. Sorry, I forgot to mention, because yes, the brutally and really, really life-threatening cold weather is across the Great Lakes.
Okay.
But some of that cold air is getting into the South. So there's, truckers in the South should be paying attention too, because across the Smoky Mountains, other parts of the Appalachians, like up in the West Virginia, the wind chills will be brutal early tomorrow morning.
And they're not necessarily as prepared for it.
They're not used to that all the time.
Infrastructure-wise.
That's right. And not only there, but even in South Georgia, across parts of North Florida, they'll be below freezing temperatures early in the day. So
thank you for adding that. Yes.
Got to make sure that if, for any truckers that have to park overnight, they might want to keep their trucks running. So that they don't run into problems possibly with fuel gelling, all that kind of stuff. And just dress warmly because of those wind chills. Be careful out there.
Yes, be careful out there. You heard it from Nick Austin first. Thank you for bringing that on this cold and frigid nationwide Tuesday. And now, without further ado, we're bringing our market expert, the Wizard of Croz. Thanks for coming on, man.
Absolutely. I too had a hard time getting into to work today with all the snow and
you didn't even get a dusting in North Georgia,
not even a dusting. So I was going to talk about something totally different, but today I watched what the Sultan said yesterday, so I had to come on here with his bad news and just be the devil's advocate,
Yes.
So
what positive news are we seeing?
Well, we're looking at our outbound tender volume in the United States, and if you look over here on the right side of the chart, we have been kind of struggling after the first week in January, but luckily yesterday we saw a 2.5% increase in volume. Now this is nationwide, keeping that in mind. So there's a lot of components that go on to make this up, but one of the reasons, of course, is the month-end push. So the month-end is Thursday, I believe. And we're going to be looking at, shippers are always trying to make their, get as much freight out the door as they can, get it on the books by the end of the month.
Yeah. So it's shippers. Is it? I mean, like it's brokers too, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, everybody's trying to. Yeah. Okay, so we're finally seeing evidence of that end of the month push.
We are, and there's some speculation. It could kind of hover around that level, but it's a good sign. We're 2 days before the end. And the end of the month, so we're kind of seeing some, a little bit of volume come out there. So this is our national index. If you look on my next chart, you'll actually see kind of the components that make up the national volume. So if you think of it like a big train, you got like an engine or two, but then you got like 300 cars. So there's a lot that has to happen for that to move up. So these are actually all of our markets here, and they're sorted by, currently you see Ontario, California is the largest market, which that's usually Atlanta. But if you look at, we've got, what do we have, like 20 markets here? If you look back here.
So you've got it sorted too in terms of what is value, the value being the highest.
Yes, this is an index value.
Okay.
So if you kind of look out just a little bit and see our percentages here, you'll see that our largest market, this was like 3.5%. So Ontario was up 3.5%. You'll see other markets.
Atlanta at 2.8.
Atlanta, Los Angeles, Joliet, which is near Chicago, Harrisburg, and even Houston. We don't talk about Houston a lot, but they're actually up 5.5%. So this is good news. I mean, just from looking at the entire chart here, you could see maybe out of 20, there's only like 2 that were down. So
and look at this mid-sized market. Lakeland, as we mentioned before, up 5.7%. And Fort Worth at 6. I mean, giving Texas a run for their money, as well as, wow, look at some of these. The highest I'm seeing is Kansas City at 6.6. That's awesome. So so it's green. It's like hope springs eternal. It is like spring is coming, right? It can't be far behind.
That's why we love I love the heat map, because it just visually shows you what's going on. Lakeland, of course, includes areas that people like Tampa and Orlando, which, a lot of manufacturing, a lot of shipping coming out of that Central Florida area. Right there. So what I talked about this morning and we discussed earlier is even with all the markets on the rise, the largest volume influx that we've seen so far this year is primarily the West. So we've been looking at like Southern California, with all the port activity we had in November. Everything's kind of been put into warehouses, and now we're kind of looking at we're redistributing it, putting it like in Stockton and Phoenix. So I've got the outbound tender reject pulled up for the West region.
And what is the West region?
Okay, we define the West as California, Nevada, and Arizona. So that would include all 3 states and all the areas, your Phoenix, your Stockton, your Los Angeles, and those areas right here. So I thought this was interesting because even with all the volume, again, I'm going to come back and talk about the shippers are still kind of controlling the freight game here.
Yes.
You can look where this is rejection is for all 3 states combined with all the markets. So we saw as high as almost 20% last July.
So high.
But, it's down below. It's at 2.82 right now, which means over 97% of the freight is being accepted by the carriers.
Wow.
So we still need a little bit more volume from a carrier's point of view. There's plenty to go around, but as far as carriers rejecting freight, unless it's just an outlying area or you have to have special equipment, we're still seeing rejections pretty low there.
What's surprising to me about that is, we're talking about the, really disruptive weather. And yet they're still not rejecting, or maybe the weather, maybe in the West region isn't as disruptive. I'm not
Probably
sure.
Not.
So
we'll have to ask our weather guy that tomorrow. But
okay,
a lot of times these things aren't quite as reactive. I know we were talking about Detroit and some of the Michigan area last week, where we were seeing rejections kind of come up a little bit. But for the most part, if it can be sustained for less than a week, a lot of times we don't see like big trending movements in carrier rejections because the shippers are wanting to get the freight out, the carriers are wanting to move their trucks, so everybody's kind of working together to make that work.
Are volumes in like the 2 ports in the LA area, are volumes just high there, even while maybe the rest of the country has been struggling with that? Right?
They really are high, Chad. Actually, some of the markets we have more than a year's worth of data, so we could go back to, I think, October of 2017. And while everybody's saying, where's the volume, if you're just looking at a 6-month chart, it does look like it has dropped off. But if you look at where it was last year, we're up almost 80% just in LA. So volume has really been coming up. It's not really a problem of volume, it's just capacity's redistributing itself. The ports, we've had a lot of unique things happening there. I know deadlines weren't canceled, they were extended, which means there's still a deadline. So, we're kind of getting back up to that point.
So not just volume, you're saying it is capacity redistributing itself to some extent at the beginning of this year.
Yeah, absolutely. I think my theory anyway is, carriers flocked out to the West in November when the volumes were really coming up. And then after the tariffs deadline was extended, we kind of saw volumes just drop off. It's because there wasn't like a sense of urgency, right? If there's not a deadline, then you're technically not procrastinating. So we saw volumes drop off. So now all of a sudden, there was lots of capacity out there. Other areas of the country started to struggle. And, I just, maybe they're a little sheepish. I don't know. But we're starting to get that covered now, though.
Wow, fantastic. Yeah, thank you, Michael Crosby. And you know what? We are covering it for you each and every day here. It's interesting about, the ball is in the shipper's court. But boy, isn't it nice to have so much, just enough volume that you're not having to reject it a lot. So, we will be tracking things as will the uptick continue here? Is it just an end of month thing? Will we see the fall off again at the beginning of the February month? How much is weather disrupting things? We will keep a weather eye on that and all things macro and microeconomics. And we do have, stay tuned for Thursday, where we have our chief economics officer coming in and really giving us the down low on kind of a larger overview of what's happening with all things freight. But today, this is what is happening right now, and the Cross has told us that there is some good news to contrast with the Sultan's kind of bad news. Well, it's bad news, good news that he brought us yesterday. So thanks for tuning in, and we are here for you each and every day, business day at 4 o'clock, my favorite time of the day. Check us out on FreightWaves.com and on Twitter and our social media channels. Thanks for tuning in, and don't worry, be happy.